You are listening to the Beyond Believing podcast. I am your host, Katie Ann. I am a certified life coach, a divorced mom to 5 amazing children, and I am here to share some love and encouragement with you about healing and moving on post-divorce as a Christian woman. Stick around after the show for some details on how we can work together. You are listening to the Beyond Believing podcast, episode number 51. Welcome, my beautiful friends. I am so excited that you are here this week, and I'm excited to be able to share this message with you today. We're talking about taking back control of your own emotions so that you can have deeper, more connected, and full godly relationships. So before we get into that, I'm just going to give you a quick reminder. I'm still doing my new case study I'm calling Selah Healing. It's designed just for divorced Christian women like you. It's 12 weeks of private coaching with me. We get crystal clear on how to create the life post-divorce where you're waking up refreshed and at peace every day. I have just 1 seat left for my September group, and I'd love for you to be the one to fill it. So find all the details about it in my show notes. You can also find links for my TikTok and YouTube accounts, along with how to contact me in my show notes. And I absolutely love to hear from you. So please keep reaching out. Let me know how I can be praying for you, how I can be supporting you, and how I can be encouraging you on your journey post-divorce. All right. So today we are talking all about the expectations we have of others we have relationships with and how we feel about them based on their behavior towards us. In coaching, we call this the manual. And whenever I think of a manual, I think of this big, thick textbook or like a heavy 3-ringed binder full of sections, tabs, chapters. And it's really not an exciting piece of literature to have around. And it's really not something I'm excited to read or share with anybody. But in actuality, a manual in coaching is something that we unknowingly carry around, and they are unwritten expectations for how we think someone should behave in order for us to feel quote unquote good, happy, or loved in a relationship. We think the other person should just know what these things are, and we often don't even know ourselves that we're carrying around these expectations. A manual is this like unspoken instruction manual and instruction guide that we have for this other person in our lives about how we want them to behave so we can feel good and happy. And it can seem like this is a really great thing to have expectations for others, but it can be very damaging when your emotional happiness is tied to their behavior, the way you decide they should or should not behave. Now, no matter what people do, how they act, what they say, we don't have to give others the power to determine how we feel. Now, quick caveat here, this does not apply to children or employees, okay? For example, in most romantic relationships, this is just where it's most clearly identifiable, but this happens in all relationships. Common expectations we might have for others would sound like, she should invite me when she has an event, or she should support me, or she should listen to me as long as I listen to her. Maybe it's, he should tell me he loves me, or he should call or text to let me know his plans, or he should know what I like, or he should be emotionally available, or he should spend less time at work. Have you ever found yourself thinking these thoughts, my friend? I know you have. And I know you are now thinking of other examples of ways that you are listing out requirements for another person in order for you to be happy. These are just short, brief examples, but the reality is our manuals are usually quite thick, quite complicated. They have sections and tabs and chapters for each situation that we're in. And when people follow our expectations, we choose to believe that they are showing us love, interest, and concern for us. And that is why we feel happy, good, and loved. But as soon as they stop showing those behaviors, or if they don't do them consistently, or if they don't do them the exact way that we think they should, we then believe that they don't love us or care about us or want us enough to show us love that we think they should. And this feels terrible, my friends. And this is the cause of so much conflict and pain in our relationships. And the super unhelpful part is that we're the ones suffering. We believe that the other person is suffering right alongside of us. But the reality is that other person isn't affected at all until you say something, because they already know that they love you. They know that they're showing you love in the way that they know how to, and they're not doubting or questioning their feelings for you. They're simply giving you their love the way they know how to. And when you are in a relationship where you feel responsible for filling someone else's needs and they are responsible for filling yours, you end up creating a lot of pressure to perform for each other, and you end up focusing on how to control the other person, which you are not capable of doing, my friends. If your emotional life is tied up to your partner's behavior, you've given away all of your emotional power and set yourself up for a disaster in a relationship, because this creates a dynamic of a never enough feeling, which is also terrible. You're giving the other person control over your emotions instead of taking responsibility for them yourself. And the best thing that you can do about your manual, or about manuals in general, is to decide to shift your focus onto what you can control, which is yourself. Create yourself a manual for how your own behavior should or should not be towards other people, towards yourself, and start taking responsibility for your behavior and how you're showing up in your relationships and how you show up for yourself. Because reality is, my friends, your emotions come from your thoughts about what others are doing and saying, not from their behavior itself. You are either constantly telling yourself some form of, he or she loves me because he or she did, fill in the blank with whatever it is that you like that they do. And one of the biggest lies the enemy distracts us with is the belief we can control other people, but not ourselves. And this is how manuals get started, my friends. And this is the exact opposite of what is true. We believe that if someone else can just, quote unquote, be who we think they should be for us, then everything in our life is going to be, quote unquote, better. But we can't even control ourselves. We can't control our own thoughts or our own feelings or our own actions. And then we believe we can for someone else. Do you see how this is crazy making, my friends? This takes the focus off of what is truly in our control, again, ourselves. And this is why the enemy is so productive at destroying relationships, because he keeps us focused on trying to control the other person instead of ourselves. But Jesus teaches in Matthew 7:3-4, why do you see the speck that is in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that is in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, when there is a log in your own eye? Trying to control other people so that we can feel good or happy is like focusing on the speck in their eye instead of the log in your own. Taking responsibility for your emotions is one way you address the log in your eye. It requires some emotional maturity, some spiritual maturity, and it's not really very fun to acknowledge that you have a role in the quality of your relationships, but it is what is required to have a deep, meaningful, godly relationship. James chapter 4, verse 1 says, what causes quarrels and what causes fights among you? Is it not this, that your passions are at war within you? Your own faults, my friends, your own weaknesses. Sometimes we just fall prey to those, our own fears and our own anxieties. And when those are front and center in our minds, we end up lashing out at people we love. When we start focusing on what we cannot control, the other person in this situation, and when we start focusing on all of our fears, we end up lashing out at those people and we end up blaming them for not behaving how we want them to, and then excuse our own behaviors instead of taking ownership for them. Now, this requires some humility, some grace, and some love for ourselves and for others. And this is exactly what Christ teaches us that we should be extending towards others as believers. And it's exactly what we want to be receiving from those whom we have relationships with. That's what we're all actually looking for. James chapter 3, verses 14 and 18 says, but if you have bitter jealousy and selfish ambition in your hearts, do not boast and be false to the truth. This is not the wisdom that comes down from above, but is earthly, unspiritual, demonic. For where jealousy and selfish ambition exist, there will be disorder and every vile practice. But the wisdom from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, open to reason, full of mercy and good fruits, impartial and sincere. And a harvest of righteousness is sown in peace by those who make peace. Now, this, of course, is idyllic. Being held responsible for someone else's feelings is what creates this, like, quote unquote, walking on eggshells dynamic. And you can't be sowing peace if you're always focusing on what someone else is doing, because you will never be able to control what they do. And it's always going to lead to frustration and anger and resentment and bitterness, all of these things, selfish ambition. Instead of focusing outward, my friends, peace comes from the spirit within you and focusing on the log in your own eye. When no matter what you say or do, another person is offended, upset, hurt, or jaded, or you are offended, upset, hurt, or jaded by what somebody else says or does, it is an exhausting dynamic to be part of. This is what James is saying. It's unspiritual and demonic. There's going to be disorder and every vile practice. Wisdom is from above. Now, this doesn't mean that you cannot have standards, my friends. This does not mean that you cannot have boundaries, and it does not mean that you cannot be intentionally building a specific dynamic in a relationship. On the contrary, when you accept personal responsibility for your own emotions, it allows you to love and accept the other person more fully because you understand that he or she is not acting out of malice, anger, judgment, or projecting their own emotions onto you. On the regular. Of course, we all revert to emotional, immature, and insensitive behavior when we are personally feeling vulnerable, weak, exposed, ashamed, afraid, etc. No one is capable of never acting out of negative emotion. James chapter 3, verse 8 reminds us of this. He says, "But no human being can tame the tongue. It is a restless evil full of deadly poison." Now, friends, now, this is not an excuse to be a jerk or to lash out at somebody or to not take accountability for yourself. It's just recognizing we are not all perfect. And when you understand that the person you love and are building or maintaining a relationship with is actually acting out from their best skills and their best understanding of what they know how to express and be, and they are not intentionally attacking you for the sake of hurting you, it allows you the freedom to extend grace, kindness, understanding, respect, and love instead of blame, shame, judgment, or guilt. And it allows the other person the freedom to be their authentic self without fear of having to take on the burden of your emotions that they were never intentionally trying to be insensitive to or to be punished for having them. James chapter 4, verses 6 and 7 says, "But he gives more grace. Therefore it says, God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Submit yourselves, therefore, to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you." Now, friends, this is why you have to take your thoughts captive. This is why you have to be aware of what's going on in your mind and in your heart and submit to God to show you your log in your eye, because He's going to show you what thoughts you need to take captive and where you need to place your focus, which is on you and your own imperfections. Because we do all have imperfections, my friend. We're all going to mess up. We are all going to say something in the wrong tone, in the wrong way, or we're going to do something that might be offensive to another person. But you don't know that unless you're allowing yourself to be shaped by God or that other person lets you know. You're not responsible for other people's feelings, but that doesn't mean you can be insensitive or obtuse or blatantly ignore them. Now, there are very unhealthy, emotionally unintelligent people in the world who do intend to hurt, manipulate, control your emotions. We are not talking about those people. And there is a difference between emotional immaturity and emotional abuse. I am referring to people who may just have some emotional immaturity when they lash out. We are all guilty of that at times. The difference is that emotional immature people can grow and learn to be more emotionally mature. Emotionally abusive people have no interest, desire, or care to learn and grow to become emotionally mature. So we're not talking about those people, okay? We are talking about emotionally healthy, mature adults that are just as imperfect as we are, that are learning in their own way and perhaps in a different way than ourselves. And they're working on different skills and tools that God is showing them. 1 Peter 2, verses 21 through 24 reminds us, "For to this you have been called, because Christ also suffered for you, leaving you an example, so that you might follow in his steps. He committed no sin, neither was deceit found in his mouth. When he was reviled, he did not revile in return. When he suffered, he did not threaten, but continued entrusting himself to him who judges justly. He himself bore our sins in his body on the tree, that we might die to sin and live to righteousness. By his wounds you have been healed." Now, Christ paid the price for your wounds, my friends. Don't make your loved ones pay for them also. Recognize you're not Christ, and either is the people in the relationship with you. No one is going to be able to perfectly reflect each of these Christ-like godly characteristics and traits perfectly in a godly way while we are in our human form. Take responsibility for your own feelings, my friend. Stop and take some time with God to help you be aware of what those are, what thoughts you need to take captive of so that you can fully love and appreciate the people you truly love just as they are, right where they are. Have a great day, my friends. You have been listening to the Beyond Believing podcast, and if you liked anything you heard today, I want to invite you to come and work with me privately. This month, I'm starting up a brand new Selah Healing case study group, and I'm looking for a handful of new women to mentor and work closely with. This invitation is very time sensitive, and I won't be able to offer this kind of personalized coaching and access to me for much longer. If this sounds like something you are interested in, find all the details at the link in my bio. I can't wait to hear from you.